which way you look at it. Okay, the aesthetics, not so great as I get older. However, the brain does tend to keep knowledge, and that knowledge I want to share amongst you, because that's the whole purpose of doing this. Some of you may actually not be as old as me, so you won't remember these changes. Some of you may be considerably older, and you'll remember these changes long before I was here, like when they first brought in decent diesel engines. The first clip I'm going to show you now is when they started trying to push diesel engines. Up until this point, they were literally put into boats and very, very large commercial vehicles, and they were rough and ready, and they were a bit of a pain to live with. However, after that, they then moved on to slightly more sophisticated. Well, that comes later on in what's probably going on behind me. Then they brought about unleaded, and they wanted to push unleaded because they said that leaded fuel was bad and that it was giving kids all sorts of problems, and they all played on our heartstring, and we went along with it. All we had to do, apparently, was advance the timing and put some hardened valve seats on. Probably not a bad thing, because it gave you the chance to do the head gasket, which was probably going to go in the first place, or the long run, or whatever you want to call it anyway. Now, after that, they then pushed really hard for diesel engines, because diesel engines have come a long way. They put either really big diesel engines in small cars, or they put medium-sized diesel engines in with a turbo, which made them go well. And some of them did go rather well. And nowadays we think of diesel engine as the mainstream thing. Then you'll remember they started to push for hybrid, and then every woke pop star or TV star, from Cameron Diaz to, what was his name? Him that was on the Titanic. Him and many others like it. They all went out and got one of these. I know people personally that had them, use them as taxis. They seemed a good idea. They were a mixture of a petrol engine and a battery in the back. And now, most of you will be aware that they're pushing us into electric vehicles. Now, why am I going on like this? Well, as I saw in what they've done is they've tried to make you buy. That's the truth of it, all right? The Century of Self, I've banged on about it numerous times, but the Century of Self explains about how globalism needs you to keep buying, because they want to profit off you. So they sell you a dream. Or what they do is they play on your heartstrings, or they do whatever it is that they need to do to convince you that you need to have it. Some people, they'll appeal to their conscience. Other people, they'll appeal to their vanity. You get the idea, but they've worked out how to do it, and their advertising is incredible. So the latest one, as I say, was pushing to electric vehicles, but now, what was the sales pitch? That it would be literally cost us nothing, that we wouldn't pay any road tax, that to charge it up at home, we would have a different electrical tariff. Well, they've now come out and announced the fact that actually to run an electric vehicle, given the price to buy it, and now to run it with the cost of electric, is going to be the same as a petrol or diesel engine. Who knew? Well, I did. I saw it coming, and I've been saying it for a long time. It was obvious. What they do is trap you first until enough of you have bought it, and they've worked out that they've probably reached almost mass saturation until they change something, and then they stop and pull the rug out from underneath you. Because it was all very well and good enticing you to come in and buy one of these vehicles through zero road tax, but that was a lot of money they were losing. And now you've obviously worked hard, you've taken out a loan, or you've spent your hard earnings and your savings or whatever on this vehicle, you're kind of financially invested in it. And that's the part where they pull the rug from underneath you. You have to drive it now. And we know that, so we're going to charge you the same as all the others. How do you feel? Betrayed, I would suggest, but, you know, some of us saw this coming, because I remember when they pushed for all these different fuels. Some of you may have seen that I haven't mentioned about LPG that was going on behind me. I had an LPG, I should say, Discovery. It was a V8. It sounded great. There were a few side effects to it, like it blew up the airbox occasionally when it backfired, but generally speaking, apart from a slight loss of power, it turned a 4-litre engine into a 2-litre. Because of the running cost, I paid 45 pence to 50 pence, or depending on where you went, in a litre for gas, and that was massive. And it was good. However, there were side effects also with the engine. Some people would burn the valves out if they didn't put petrol through it occasionally, because you would start up on petrol, turn over to gas. But sometimes you used to have to drive it for a while on petrol because of whatever it is that the petrol did to it. I don't know. But this is the thing. They sell you a lie. They get you to invest your money in it, and then they royally stitch you up. And that's where we are. And I hate to say it, but the thinking people amongst you were the ones that didn't go out and buy the latest thing. There was a time where if they made you a car, it'd last forever. Some of you may have seen things like the Ford Popular or the Ford Pop. Over here we had a Ford Popular, which I think late 50s. There are a few of those still going around. But the theory was, in the old days, if you looked after the vehicle well enough and you kept the maintenance up, that it should go on forever. I've got a tractor that's 1956 and another one that's 1972. Start straight up, no problem. But the thing is, they had to work out how they were going to get you to switch from a vehicle that was working fine to a new vehicle, and how they were going to get you to part with your money. This is where the Century of Self came in, and they employed people who were very, very, very clever at manipulating thought. Sigmund Freud's cousin actually was one of them. He was the one that turned women into smoking literally overnight in America, because up until that point it wasn't the done thing, and they worked out that they had a whole new 50% they could improve their sales if they could just encourage women that smoking was sexy. So they got 6 of the most elegant and attractive film stars at the time, and they went and sent them to the races, and at the same time, just like that, they all lit up. And with that, the sales went through the roof, and they got an entire population of people into smoking. Well done. Excellent. And they used to say things like smoking is good for you. If you're pregnant, smoking will help your child. They said this stuff in the past. When they sold the car to people, they were saying that you get a whole new freedom, that, you know, the world is your oyster, rah, rah, rah. And then obviously cars didn't stop very well. I don't know if you've ever studied the highway code for any amount of time, you'll realize that the braking distance is woefully out of date, because it was set up on a car in 1960s that tried to slow on drum brakes. It actually was geared up on the Ford Prefect. No, it wasn't. It was the Angular. Anyway, so when you tried to brake on that, you could count your braking distance in millennia. It was that slow. Drum brakes overheated, and you had brake fade and all sorts of stuff. So they had to take all of these things into account. So that's why we have a massive braking distance. But a modern day car will stop very fast. But through selling us all these different things, and they mobilized us and all the rest of it, they had to work out how they were going to get the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, which is why things like your phone. Now, these phones here, okay, truthfully speaking, if they didn't have certain things built into them, like redundancies that actually make them redundant, not redundancies as in safety redundancy, your phone could probably go on for a lot longer than it actually does. And you wouldn't buy another phone. Do you remember the first people that got the clamshells? Those things went on and on and on. The Nokia 3210, this was another thing. These things you could literally use as a hammer. They were immense phones, but people weren't buying more. So they had to work a way of making you buy more. Same with clothes. If you bought decent clothes, they wouldn't wear out very quick, but next year's fashion, you've got to have it. So this is what they do. They play with your mind, and they encourage you to do the right thing. And they've used exactly the same with this latest, if you don't do the right thing, we'll lock you up. And you won't go out until you've done the thing. You know what the thing is. And we will have the latest thing, by the way, coming on soon. If you, Tyrant Finder, I believe, did a live stream on it earlier on. If you know Tyrant Finder, go over to his channel. It's very good. But the latest thing will be sold to you on your conscience. It will be, you know, we need a health passport. And the reasons we need a health passport is so that you can travel without any hassle at all. Just get this digital app on this thing that tracks you, that listens to your every conversation and is listening to me now. Why do you think when I probably pick this phone up in a minute and I'll go and look at something, it'll probably tell me about health passports or vaccines, or it'll tell me about diesel engines? We'll be listened to the whole time, and we're being played. Now, like you have been with your cars, like you have been with your phones and clothes and everything else. But I thought I would show you this because it might be of some interest to you. And also, some people out there might think, I've been had. And you have, just so you know. But don't worry, we all were had at some point or another. Just some of us picked it up a bit quicker than others and decided we weren't going to play the game anymore, or as little as possible. Now, I don't pretend to be better at not playing the game than anybody else. I have to have one of these, whether I like it or not, and it tracks everything I do. I have to pay my tax. I have to do lots of things that I don't want to do because otherwise they'll come and take me away. But it's at what level do you give in to them? I know this is a bit of a swipe from cars to what we're talking about now, but it all kind of ties in. Because if you don't get this and the passport, your movements will be restricted. So you won't need to have a car anyway. Nope. If you've got an electric car, you simply won't be able to charge it up if they let you charge you up, because let's be honest, with Sweden, they're already saying now that they will ban the use of electric cars because of a power shortage brought on by the war with Russia and Ukraine. But I do believe that Russia are thinking about having talks with Ukraine, and if that war stops, what will they blame it on then? Well, they're already working in the next illness, I dare say, even while we speak. But when those passports come in, by the way, they'll never go away. And there is a technology out there which is called, I think it's a switch or something like that, but if you watch a documentary that Tyrant Fighter played, then it'll tell you all about it. All of this stuff that tracks our cars, that makes sure our cars are taxed, make sure our cars are insured, all the cameras that are all over the motorways and the big roads and all the rest of it. Well, there's a lot more of those, and they don't just monitor, by the way, car number plates. They can monitor face recognition, all sorts of stuff like that. And all of this stuff is in place, ready to be switched on at the drop of a hat. Now, I do believe that, I think it's Cambridge or Canterbury, one of those two, I can't remember just off, have now trialled the 15-minute neighbourhood. You might want to look into that. I have done a video on it, but have a look into it. It's quite worrying, but it's all going to happen. But I thought I'd just point out this because, well, a lot of you out there drive. And a lot of you out there will realise we've gone from this to that, to this, to that, to that. But when they bin electric vehicles off, where will be their next? Well, to be honest, they're on about that you won't need a vehicle. You won't need a computer either because they've decided. You probably won't even need a phone because, well, you've got to be a good citizen to have one of those, haven't you? However, there will have to be a tracking device, and how will that? I wonder. Who knows? But there you go. Anyway, I'm going to get off now and look for the next load of content. Don't forget, subscribe to me on all of my channels. I've got Reverend Simon Sideways, which will be the one you're watching. I've got the Man Up channel, which we will be doing some more content on, try and get the words outside. We've got Rev on a Rant. Then we've got the Getter. I'm on there. I'm on Twitter. I'm on many other platforms, and I'm also on Telegram. We do the live streams on Saturday nights, or work permitting. And what we're going to do from now on is do the live stream up until a point, and then we're going to switch onto Getter and Rumble. The reason we're doing this is because then we can play film clips without me getting struck off for copyright. And we could talk about things that are a little bit more taboo. All right? So bear with. Don't forget, if you want to come and talk to me, you can do. It's in Discord. If any of you are having a problem, all right, there are videos on YouTube about, pardon me, itchy nose, about Discord. There are also videos on YouTube about every other platform I've got and explains how to get in and how not to. But they are quite simple, all right? Some of you may, all you need to do is press the verification button, which means all you got to do is read the rules. But we do have an after party where we go into Discord afterwards, one of my live streams, and you get the chance to talk to me and the others who are helping me and make new friends. So bear with, just a thought for you, especially as we're probably heading towards another lockdown for reasons yet unknown. And if you are locked down and you want people to talk to, what better way of doing it than come onto my Discord server and have the crack. So there you go. Anyway, I've waffled on long enough. I need a drink. I'll see you in a bit.